Hello everybody, it's Glass Half Dead here, and as you no doubt saw from the thumbnail and the title of this video, we're doing an interview and we're discussing Commanders specifically. I'm here with Mateusz, who I shall from now on be calling Matt, because I can't handle Polish names. And he, along with two other people, have put together a Commanders tournament pack called Commanders International, CI, that they believe is as competitive as not just Commanders can be, but the game of Kill Team can be. So, before I run away with everything, Mateusz, do you want to say hi?
Hi. I want
Excellent.
to say hi, and I done that. Yeah.
So, do you want to... Who are you? Why are we listening to what you're saying about Commanders?
Yeah, I'm a comp player from. I live in Warsaw. I'm not from Warsaw, just to make it clear. And I'm one of three members of Commander International team. So there is two others ones, Jonathan Slons and Nikolai Shaskarov. Guys, if I raped your surnames, let me know. Sorry, I done my best. But none of us is from the same nationality, so we facing the same problem as you are facing with my name, unfortunately. And we created this pack. It is going live today, so the same day probably this video will be live, and we are happy with the results, and that's why we're talking.
Okay, great. So, you are, just to clarify, it is called Commanders International. You're Polish. Nikolai is Ukrainian. We have
Yes.
spoken about me and
Yeah.
my travels in Ukraine previously, and how they have typically in the past they basically have much bigger Commanders tournaments, and they actually view Commanders as the format much more than everybody else does.
The
And
default format, yeah.
yeah, and who was the third person? Sorry.
John is British, but he lives in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So
right.
he is more common with the Hong Kong community than with the UK one.
Sure. Okay, so big international team, people that have been playing Commanders basically since Commanders released. They took that format and ran with it. So, do you want to tell us first of what is what is the key difference between the Commanders International pack and all the other tournament packs we've been playing so far?
The most obvious one is that we are taking Commanders as a baseline here. You cannot simply play our pack without Commanders. This is the first point. The second point is that it is going to the 200 points limit. Obviously, because we are grabbing Commanders here, so 125 or 100 is simply not enough in points. And we are adding some additional changes, or rather limitation is a correct name, to the whole vanilla Commanders, which was provided by Games Workshop, to make it competitive as it can be, because there is a big myth about Commanders that they are not balanced. They are kind of not worse than all the other things in Kill Team were balanced before community take its own way of playing that, before the Adepticon package was created, before Nova, before LVO. All of that packages solved a minor issues with Kill Team. There was a potential in Kill Team at all, and they simply polished that to make it better. And it is the same what we are doing here. We are taking already good starting points and solving minor issues, because I don't think that we done anything big, yeah, well, that we changed all the commander, how they worked, anything like that. We simply solved minor issues, which were not as minor as I'm calling them, because they could broke the game, but we solved them, and voila, commanders are working, and it is tested, and it simply
Sure.
works.
So, what are those changes?
There are only a couple big ones, because there are primary changes how we are calling them. And the first one is that you can use only commander on the first level. This is the most obvious one, which we run into.
Sorry. Before we jump into that, that's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I asked it. What is the pack in itself? Like, obviously, Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
What are the primaries? Are there any notable secondaries? Have you changed the format? Are you giving us new missions that are kind of better than anything else, etc., etc.?
I think it is not any surprise that the base for ourselves was the LVO 2021. and we are not hiding that because we run into conclusion that we simply don't want to invent wheel for the second time. I love LVO 2021. It is a great package, and it is really great job. But still, I think that that there are some things that can be even better, and we tried to achieve that. So, beside of that we are putting commanders into that format, there are changes in primaries, a little bit, only one change into primaries. There are additional secondaries which we added. There are some secondaries which we redesigned from the LVO perspective. There are some secondaries which we simply removed from LVO, and we added our own mission package, because this is a big thing for our format, that you can simply play it in two main ways. The first one is that you are simply taking our format and it is giving you everything that you need. So you have instructions how to score primaries, how to score secondaries, how to set up terrain, and mission packs with objectives, all of that. But there is a second way, and it is plug-in section. So you are taking our format and plug in for example, into LVO 2021. And it is very simple to be done. It is described in the format with the really simple instruction. Okay, if you want to, because you, for example, have a terrain for LVO 2021. Many clubs, Warhammer clubs in Warsaw have that terrains, yeah. And okay, we have that terrains for LVO. Why we should not use it? You can use it if you like LVO missions, and I really love LVO missions. You can use it with our format without any issues.
Sure.
And this is the main way how it works.
Okay, so it is indeed a tournament pack all on its own, as anybody else would expect. That's how we've been given tournament packs before. So as you say, LVO 2020, 2021, that is just a pack. You don't need to go outside of that. But equally, you can take it and essentially just say, I want to play LVO 2021 plus commanders. And you can just plug it on top of that. You'll still be using all of the LVO 2021 secondaries, primaries, bonus objectives, etc. Okay, cool. So you did mention that the CI has you changed the primaries. What are those? I think that's the first thing we have to say.
Only fair. There is. Sorry, my dog is
that's
talking
fine
to me.
That's
I don't
fine.
know if you can hear him.
Only just, yeah.
Come. Sorry. The real star of the podcast.
Yes.
In primaries there is simply only one change to the LVO, because we have also hold more, kill more, but there is also your commander killed more, because one of the main minuses into commanders in the vanilla is that game isn't giving you any way of, rewarding you for taking that commander into action and give that value from him. And now you have that, because if you have a beefy commander which simply can provide kills for your team, you will grab extra point for that. And this is the only thing that we change in the primaries. Beside of that there is also a different problem which is happening.
One moment. So you said commanders kill more.
Yeah.
Does that mean commanders kill more than the enemy commander?
Yeah.
Okay, so not just more in general.
Yes.
Cool.
Your commander killed more than. We haven't added your commander kill one, because it will be simply too much primaries per one turn to be grabbed. There was a problem with beefy commanders, which are very expensive. Okay, they can provide kills, but what about holding objectives? Yeah, you have a commander for 100 points, for example, brother captain, and then a guardsman for 5 points is standing next to him on the objective.
Sure.
And they are holding this objective in the same manner. It was a nonsense, and it was clearly a big problem for a big beefy commanders. So we simply introduced a bracket system to our commanders. So there are 3 brackets depending on the cost value which you put it into your commander, and if your commander is cheap, it is scoring like a single model. But if it is in the middle bracket, it is scoring like 2 models, and if it is above 100 points or 100 points, it will score as 3 models. So it is very crucial, because if you are taking that, for example, brother captain, you can go with domination and put it in the middle, and it will be very hard for your opponent to challenge that holding if he don't have the same commander on the same level. And it is very crucial, because we wanted to feel that power. If you are putting half of your points into one unit, it have to make an impact on the battlefield. On the other hand, you have to have any solution to work around him if you have issue with that. But you have to feel that, oh my god, this is a god of that field, yeah?
Sure.
Now everybody is running from him because he's deadly.
Sure, so if I recall, it's 0 to 49, he counts as one model.
Yes.
50 to 99, he's 2 models.
Yes.
When it comes to scoring objectives. Okay, cool. So you've added, just to quickly wrap up, you've added the, oh, my mind's gone
Commander
blank.
kills more.
You've added the primary, which is your commander kills more, and then you've added that if you are a certain points level, you have brackets for how many kind of objective holding points or models your commander costs.
Yes, exactly.
Were there any notable changes in secondaries or things that you really defined this packet? Because of course secondaries are big.
There were. We added the whole new category of the secondaries. There is, which we call the commander secondaries, obviously, and they are directly or indirectly connected with your commander. So, for example, there are secondaries designed to support very beefy commanders, but there are also secondaries designed to counter beefy commanders. Because, for example, you are playing Admech, and from the other side you have the Grey Knights. You don't have a true potential to rely on any model in your roster to take out in the single turn this guy. You simply don't have that. So we, for example, provided a secondary which is called Siege Master. When you are simply denting that commander, enemy commander, you know that you cannot rely that you will kill him even the whole game, but you can dent him and grab points, treat it as a scoring point, simply to provide even that one single wound. There are additional secondaries which are connected to aura abilities to make commanders with aura, but without a psych phase, more competitive. So there is, for example, secondaries, which is working like that if your aura from your commander is on, and any other model will score a kill being influenced by this aura, it provides you also a point. So this is for commanders like Admech, where you don't have any access to truly cost-effective killer, but you have, for example, Engine Seer, and you are putting that aura from Engine Seer, and he is treated as a support. And then your plasmas can simply grab the kills and provide that value from here. So there are a couple new secondaries. We've thrown out some secondaries from LVO package, and we provided little tweaks in some of the rest of them which are still in the package. And this is the end. And of course, one thing which we haven't talked already, we changed a little bit how much points you can score. The max you can go from the format is 25 points, and there are simply three sources of that points. This is primaries, secondaries, and bonus from missions. Because in LVO there are bonus from missions, and in our scenarios there are also ones. And from what I know, there were already there in the previous Kiev's formats. So we simply adapted the old missions and made tweaks with the terrain. But as I said, 25 is top, but you can score in the whole game more than 25. Why? Because there are teams. Good example is, for example, my team, Astra Militarum, where you don't have a true access to a deadly commander. they can provide some kills in some matchups, for example, Lord Commissar with Power Fist, but you won't use that against Space Marines because they have Thunder Hammers, which I am calling the Commander Killers, and you cannot grab points from there. So there is a big disproportion from teams, one team and another team in that category. That's why we made soft caps, so you can grab more points from all the free sources than is the total cap of the whole match, because the sources can be very different, and some team in some particular matchup can be simply unable to score from primary source as good as from the other matchups, but it can grab more from secondaries. That's why the cap from primaries is 15, the cap from secondaries is 12, because there are some secondaries which are giving you that access for 4 points per secondary, not 3, and there is the free from bonus. And
Okay.
this is also one big change, yeah.
Sure. Okay. Was there? I know there are more changes, but when you're just looking at the main format, that's basically it, right? Everything you've said so far.
No, there is also an enforcer case.
I thought we'd come to that in a moment. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
if you're just, that's basically the format. You've taken Commanders, you've put it on top of, or as its own pack, everything else. You've added in a bracket system, you've changed up the secondaries, you've added a primary. That's basically it.
And limit to the first level of commanders and specialists, yeah.
Right, yeah, sorry. Yeah. We
is very
completely, yeah.
We can briefly talk about that, because we were considering adding the multi-level commanders.
Yeah.
But there is a reason why on Kiev format they were not playing that for some time. We are simply unable to balance that for today. There are things which, if you connect, for example, one trait with one commander, and the same trait is doing the same thing, but with the different commander, the synergy can be quite different, and the balancing of that is obviously connected with the rebalancing of points.
Sure.
And to make it correctly, it is really hard and required a lot of work, and especially a lot of data and a good quality of data. So you have to be on the tournaments, monitor what is the biggest changing factor in the kill teams of the player, and it is very hard. That's why we resigned from that point, that we are, and we simply face the truth that we are unable to make a multi-level commanders available.
Sure. So without getting too in depth and saying, well, if you take Pistolier on engines here, then it's who cares? It'll cost you 5 points. But if you take it on the Autark, it should cost you 30 points or something like that.
Yes, and
you just
doing completely the same. Yeah.
So you couldn't just say, oh, well, actually, if you want to go to level 2, it's 5 points more for everyone. Blah blah blah. Fair enough. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm not telling that in the next iteration we won't do something with that. We are not sure, because we really wanted, because it is another complexity added to the game. But the other point, we wanted to make it as simple as it can be, because if it have to catch people's attention, it have to be really simple. And there is a very crucial for me, but it sounds as a nonsense, as an argument, but multi-level specialists were removed from Battlescribe. And for me it is a big issue, because we are using all here a Battlescribe, and if people won't be able simply to put their list on their phones, it will be a big stopper for a format, yeah?
Right.
So we simply resign from that, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think not having specialists, multi-level specialists makes sense, because that's how the rest of the game's played. So I don't think anyone's questioning that at all. Yeah. Questioning multi-level commanders, some people might, but I totally get why they're single. You can only take level 1. Mm-hmm. Certainly for the majority of people, they might. So the last time I talked about the Kiev pack, they were coincidentally playing. You can take a commander at any level, and then we never really heard from them after that. So, to a lot of people, the fact that commanders are limited to level 1 in competitive for them now is new, but apparently they've been doing it for quite some time now.
I think it was because there was a last version before of the
Yeah.
Kiev format before the COVID situation blown up. I was even considering to simply go to Ukraine with my friends from Warsaw to simply play
Sure.
the tournament, but happened, yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah,
things
yeah.
happened.
No, I was looking at that as well. I think they were going
Yeah,
to run it in April, then July, and it just, yeah.
yeah. It was. I'm really happy that we managed to test already our package on the free tournaments in that that section of the year where we were after of the first wave and before the second wave,
Yeah.
because now we are stuck. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
But still, we decided for that first level. I don't. It is a better question for Nikolai for how long they were using that first level, or maybe I am even lying to you about that. But it is still our decision. It is better for today, for sure, to make it
Sure.
simple with the first level.
No, I agree completely. Makes sense. So let's talk about a few different things here.
Mm-hmm.
I know from from what I hear on Discord, on Reddit, on Facebook, etc., that there are two big. Oh wait,
Mm-hmm.
there's another thing that I believe you might have forgotten to mention.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
okay.
wrong, but
Yeah.
how many CP do you get?
Yes, we have the same amount of CPs as on LVO, so we raise from 2 CPs to 3, from 2 to 3. Yeah.
Sure. So same situation. You now
Yes.
naturally gain 2 CP a turn, plus your leader gives you another 1.
Yes. And
Okay.
strategy specialist from commanders can give you a 4th one.
Yes. So let's discuss strategists. Let's talk about psychers.
No problem.
And then let's talk about the enforcer. So just to set this up briefly. Jesus. Just set this up briefly. People that perhaps have played a bit of commanders are probably going to think a cheap strategist is the way to run your lists, right? And if there is some sort of reason that that's not the way to run it, or if there's a primary in there that says get kills, which gives you VP, then you should run a Psyker. You know, if you have access to it. Outside of that, everything else is just straight up worse than a strategist or a Psyker. Let's start with the strategist. It is a strategist, right? Not a tactician. Am I just making that up?
Yeah. Strategist.
Okay, so strategist is that 4th CP really, really good, or are strategists now dead for whatever reason? What are your thoughts on that?
It is still good because more CPs is better CPs, and there are factions which are really relying on their CPs. Which example is again, for example, my Astra Militarum. Without CPs, you are simply dead. But that change from 2 CPs to 3 CPs as baseline is that magic line, because there is a really big difference between 2 CPs per turn and 3 CPs. But what is really interesting, there is no such a big change from 3 to 4. That's why when we raise that point, it automatically not nerfed strategist, but make it not required so much. That's why when we are playing here, it may be a big surprise, but the strategist is not a default option for most of the players. There are different specializations which are used, and they are used very often. Strategist is also, of course, very good. For example, for me, I'm using on my Lord Commissar quite usually strategist, but I also use melee specialist for him for that extra attack. Yeah. But I would use ferocity on him, but I don't have access simply. But ferocity is another phenomenal one. Shoot list is another phenomenal one. You have obviously Psyker, yeah, which is our next topic. So
yes,
strategist is still good, but it is because of that change, it is not as required.
Sure. So I think, I've talked about this sort of thing before as well. Getting 3 CP isn't the same as getting 4 CP.
Yes.
Odd as that sounds, just really quickly summarize that. We can talk about that another time. I think most people understand the relative increase of CP is massive.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm pretty happy with that as a concept. You don't always want to go cheap strategist. Obviously,
No,
I'd
you
have to
don't
play a
want.
bit more to really find out. I mean, what would be good. I can't really say it. I haven't played enough commanders, but psychic. Now, to me, this one, this one still makes sense to me. If I have access to a cheap psyker or just a psyker, that's probably the best thing to do. Just in my mind, because obviously psychic very very powerful. Just even a Cybolt, especially when you now have the primary, which is your commander, gets more kills.
Yeah.
Talk me
But
out of it. Why aren't psychers broken?
because they're not. Adding commanders but they own is solving many issues with the kill team as a whole, not as that format. And I think every player which is playing comp for a long time in kill team ran into that conclusion. I even know because there was an interview with Biranit, and he even said that oh my god, we should play with commanders.
Yeah.
Because you have that not the sick mechanic of the Psybolt, and you cannot in some teams you cannot deal with that. But if you would have the commanders, you would have auras, you would have multi wounds models, you had more points, and it would be so big pain. Yeah. So if you are grabbing commanders on its own, it is already solving the issue very very much. But
How,
also.
if I might ask?
Because there is quite a big group of commanders which are not psychers, but they are more cost effective in many matchups than psychers from the same faction.
Okay.
Simple as that. And it is a competition between you. When you are building your roster, you are thinking which commander is best for your team, which can provide the biggest amount of kill, the biggest support. And simply, it is not the truth that the psychers are always winning. They are not. I have a psyker in my roster for Astra Militarum, for example, but
From the
to be
Blackstone
honest,
Fortress, yeah.
yeah, but to be honest, to deal only with one matchup with Astartes. In almost all other things, I'm using simply Lord Commissars or anything else, because he's not able to provide me so big amount of points that he is worth it, and also he is very very unstable. You cannot rely on him. This is one point, and he is very squishy.
Yeah.
It is disgustingly easy to kill him. And there are, for example, Primaris chaplains from the Astartes. They are one of the best commanders in the game, in my opinion. If you are taking them with the ferocity, another specialization, not the psyker, yeah, they are disgusting in some matchups. Really, if you are playing, for example, Blood Angels, they are wounding almost everything on twos, hitting on twos, and providing rerolls to your Thunder Hammers, and you are simply everything is dying everywhere in melee with the Astartes. So, and you are more interested into putting that for that chaplain, and what is interesting, he cannot be psyker because he is not a psyker, and he cannot be strategist also. But you are still interested to take him because he is so good. So I'm judging this as a kind of myth. Simple as that. There is, of course, the psychers are good. For example, my friend who is playing Azuriani is usually using his Farseer as a psyker,
Yeah.
because he have two possible manifest of spells, so he can from one CP cast another Psybolt. And it is deadly, okay. But on the other hand, in some matchups, I think he is not so good because he's also very, very squishy. And he cannot kill in melee because he have only 2 attacks without AP. Against Astartes again, it is you cannot rely on that. If guys with storm shields and thunder hammers will be simply on you, that say goodbye to that little friend. He won't survive that meeting at all. So Psykers are also not broken.
Okay.
And many people were playing with different factions, and Psyker were not often met on the table. Not because we are talking as a Psykers of the whole category, models which have simply can use psychic phase, and the Psyker as a specialist. Yeah.
Okay.
Two different things. It's not broken.
Okay. Fair enough. So, to quickly add another thing we've forgotten to say, you're using the same sub-factions, like you're allowing the LVO sub-factions in your pack,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
And they're just the same ones because obviously they were taken for 40k, basically.
Yes.
The other thing, which I can't remember who did this first. It might have been you guys. It might have been LVO, actually. I can't remember. I think it was you guys. But if you have a team that doesn't have commanders, you have you've given extra commanders to certain teams, for example,
Yes.
demons.
LVO were first.
Okay.
LVO were first.
Okay, so, but you've done the same thing there.
Yes, because there are, for example, Sisters of Silence, and they simply don't have commander. And why we should not allow these people to play if they want to use it? Yeah. So we allow to use Canoness for them. We also wanted to make for them commanders which have a biggest amount of sense. I know that there will be now 100 fluff players who will tell that it doesn't have fluff sense. Yes, I know, but it's the closest thing that we could provide. And also that we wanted that these additional commanders would be really good options. And Canoness is one of the best options of commanders. In the game, so I think that the Sisters of Silence players can be happy with that.
Sure.
We also provided some additional commanders for demons, for example. Yeah.
Okay, yep, just wanted to get that out of the way. So, let's now talk about arguably the biggest change you've made, which is the Enforcer. Tell us what you've done.
I don't... Biggest change. This is the only unit which we nerfed. Simple as that, the only one. And I always telling, commanders are well balanced between themselves. So I'm talking about what you get from the points which you are paying for that. Beside of one, and this is Enforcer. And when we built that team, somehow we built that, it was one of the first questions which were asked by Nikolai. Okay, how we are building primaries, how we are building secondaries, what we are doing with Enforcer. It was so important to him what we are doing with Enforcer that it was next to secondary and primary system, so not arguably the most important things in the whole package. And we were quite surprised because of that with John, because we never met.
If I can quickly kind of preface this question now. So, as I said, a lot of people know about Strategists. They know the extra CP is good. A lot of people know about Psykers. They know Psychic's good. I think a lot of people don't know that the Enforcer is obviously the best commander because it's the only one you nerfed. Can you explain to people in what way the Enforcer is the best commander? Like, I'm going to a tournament. They haven't nerfed the Enforcer commander. How am I running him?
Now, after the nerf?
No. Ignore your packet. Just tell me, how am I running an Enforcer commander to make it super powerful?
You make him a shootist, for example.
Okay.
You're putting him in the deep strike, and you are playing against the Grey Knight. For example, they have six guys on the field. 5 normal ones with 2 gunners, probably 3 Justicar, and 2 with swords, falchions, or anything like that. And the 6th one is commander. Probably in deep strike, maybe waiting for teleport, or maybe not. Still, you are taking your Enforcer into deep strike. You are waiting how the guy will move. Then you are sending because there are not a lot of them, so they cannot scream as well as, for example, Admech or Azuriani. And you have 4 guns, which if you overload, they are putting D3 damage. They have A strength. You have rerolls of 1. You can, by tactics of the shootist, set that model as a Reddit. You can set next to him drones, shield drones, to transfer any potential wounds beside the psychic wounds. And you can fire to 4 different targets. With rerolls of 1, with ballistic skill of 2, so you hitting on 2s and rerolling 1s, with 6 wounds, toughness 5, and saving protocols around you. And you can fly, of course, because it would be too weak if he could not fly. Yeah. And you are able to provide Great Knights a breaking test in the first turn. Simple as that. Because how shooting works, you can target, okay, I killed this one, now I'm targeting this one, now I'm targeting this one and this one. The end of the story.
So you take 4 guns on them, you don't take any of the support systems, you just kill stuff?
You don't require them, really. You can do that because of any reason, and probably there are some Tau players who figure it out because maybe there is a different way to do so. I'm just telling you one of the scenarios, yeah?
Okay,
but
fair enough.
You have ballistic skill 2+. You have Tau tactics, which give you ability to ignore obscure, both on hitting and ninja rerolls. So, and you have D3 weapons.
Sure. But you are you're very expensive, and you don't have an invuln. But does that not matter?
You are not so expensive. He is with
for a commander,
layout,
I suppose. Sure.
Yeah. For that layout which I am talking about, he is costing 80 something points. I don't remember correctly. But even if he would cost more, it is not expensive for what he is providing, because it is this kind of unit which is providing this kind of changer to the battlefield that your enemy have to simply work around it. It doesn't matter what is tactic of your enemy. He have to adapt to work against you, against that one unit. It is so strong, simple as that. And it is very deadly. And also it is very tanky. Okay, it don't have invasave, but it has saving protocols. You don't need
exactly. Okay, so with that in mind, and again, so I haven't actually I've played against the Enforcer once, which was actually against Nikolai. So that's the only time I've played against it. But in general, people over here haven't really felt that the Enforcer is amazing. Like, I genuinely haven't heard other people say, oh, you've got to play the Enforcer. But I think that's because people over here don't actually play that much Commanders.
Yes,
you know?
They don't play.
So, let's just take for granted he's the most powerful commander. How have you changed him?
We faced quite a choice, because the first option was to simply ban him. Okay, he's broken, don't use him. Simple as that. But we didn't want to do that, because it is a cool model, and for Tau players, because reasons, and they wanted to use. My hate for Tau is always, but it wasn't my idea. Still, we didn't want to ban it, and so the second option was, okay, we have to nerf it somehow, but if we are able to do that, not to nerf it to the ground, yeah. So people still can use it and win tournaments with that if they want. So we took the whole categories of what commander can be good with, so damage output, multi-targeting, how tanky it is, and if in all that categories Enforcer is simply exceeding, yeah, beside the melee combat, yeah, but he don't need it, to be honest. And we decide that, okay, what is the biggest point? Can you counter that with this kind of weapons? No, because of saving protocols. Can you counter that by melee combat? No, because of saving protocols. So we decided that the saving protocols is the biggest issue here, and it is. If we are removing that, and we removed that from Enforcer, this is our main nerf for him. he's still deadly. And believe me, we met it from two players on the one tournament in Warsaw. They were playing with the after the nerf, and their opponents who were first time seeing Enforcer was, what is going on? I don't know what is going on. This guy, that big robot, is simply flying and killing everything without an issue. So it is still very powerful. So if you are playing Tau and you think that you should not play this format because they nerfed your favorite big robot because you are a fan of robots, etc., etc.
Robots are cool.
Yeah. Kitchen one are the best. Then don't worry. It is still disgustingly powerful, but now it is simply counterable.
Sure.
And this is the way how package should work. You need to build your package that everybody can work somehow around your opponent's strengths. Yeah. And now you simply can, because if they cannot use saving protocols, they are still very deadly, but they can be affected, for example, by Melta shot.
Sure.
And they are afraid of Melta because they have a potential to eat most of your health or even kill you in one shot, yeah? So you have to think about it. It is still very, very hard to kill him, believe me. But now the players of Tau are at least afraid that something will happen to that commander. Before he was simply impossible to kill.
Okay. Now, purely out of curiosity, there, do you see much melter usage within Commanders tournaments? Because outside of it, people take plasma because plasma's undercosted for
It's
what
better.
it does.
Yeah, I know something about that as a Imperial Guard main.
Yeah.
But after we released that tournament, and there is a league which is already using these rules, and we were playing the two tournament in Warsaw. It is the first time when I am playing Imperial Guard, and I played many tournaments as an Imperial Guard, when in my roster there is a place for a Melta guy.
Right.
Just in case of the very strong commanders without invasave.
Sure.
Just because of that. Because they are afraid of that, not without a reason. And there is quite a big list of commanders which are very sensitive to the little Scion, which is, flying in the Valkyrie above the team, and now he is dropping 5 inches next to you. Hello! And you're making him sniper, buffing to 2+, 8 strength, -4.
So, did you change anything else about the Enforcer, or did you just remove savior protocols?
Yes, we changed also the different point to because the scenario which I provided you with the Grey Knight is not changed at all, even without that saving protocols. It is changed because 2 unfortunate shots with Psylancer can kill that commander, so it is very risky. And Grey Knights have also Psybolts. But still, we also nerfed Manta Strikes for him.
Okay.
He can still be used as to set up from reserve, but only by outflank and by normal going from the reserve, but not by Manta Strike.
So basically, you can't drop 2 drones next to him at the same time.
You cannot drop him.
Oh no, sure, sorry, but I mean the reason you've done that really, I assume, is to stop drones. I'm talking bollocks. Yeah, okay,
no,
I agree.
No, because saving protocols are already off. We don't want him to be able. To be honest, it is not a big nerf because he can still also use outflank. And he's a flying unit with assault weapon, so he simply be on the second part of the board on the beginning if he really want. But it is purely because of teams like Grey Knights who cannot screen as well, because this is really a unit which can sometimes kill half of your team without any skill. We were avoiding, it was mainly my point, avoiding the mechanics which are skillless. Brain dead, that you are putting that, okay, I put that and I'm winning because of that. We don't want to exchange your skill for the models. And it is also a favor into the Tau players, because now they can take that Enforcer and people won't tell them,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you won
Where
the
to go?
tournament because you take Enforcer. Even my dog can do that, yeah?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because
So
before it was like that a little bit.
sure. So is it just those two changes?
Yes, nothing
Okay.
more.
Okay, cool. So I
If he
think
is deadly, we just finished, sorry. If he is so deadly, he have to be at least some kind of squishy.
Sure.
If he is not still because he have toughness 5, 3 plus save and 6 wounds, so he is still not squishy. But at least he is now afraid of meltas, plasmas, heavy bolters, of power fist, thunder hammers. Now he is afraid, yeah, which is how it should be.
Cool. So I think in reality that's the pack done, right? I mean, there are no
Yeah.
extra changes. We know all the rules.
There is also quite a big point about how you set up your terrain.
Oh,
There is the
okay.
whole section.
Okay.
Because as we already talked, there are 2 ways of playing: the plugin way
Yep.
or tournament of its own. And if you are running our tournament on its own, we've found out that not every club and not everybody simply have LVO terrains, which is obvious.
Yep.
And they still want to play that on the competitive level. So we provided instruction how to set up the terrain which you have in your club in the way that it would be supporting our format and it will be competitive. With the how far away from the center you have to provide the blocks which are infinite to the sky, etc., etc. So people simply can use terrain which they want, because as much as I adore standardized terrain, as long as I am playing, I simply started to get bored. If I am going to the table to play Kill Team and I see setup for the same setup, after 100 of matches on that setup, I would simply okay, just set up this table differently.
Sure.
And our package is allowing that, which is also, I think, not only that you are getting bored, but it is very healthy to a player, because if a player can work on the standardized terrain, it is one skill, but adapting to the situation and seeing the board the first time 5 minutes ago and now you have to play on that on the tournament is a different level of skill, and we want to make our communities better, more competitive, even if they are even more than now.
Sure. So to clarify, what you mean there is, for example, LVO 2020, LVO 2021, and obviously Arena, all use the same basic principle that your board has a specific layout for its terrain. And it tells you, the exact dimensions of everything, and it says put your terrain here. I believe it's also
put your
all
terrain
symmetrical.
in the variants. You can put it here, could put it here or there, but it have to meet some conditions. Meet some conditions to be used.
So you're saying what your pack provides is just general guidelines. It's not saying
yes.
this must be here, this must be here, exactly 2 inches from the center or whatever. Okay.
Yes.
What kind of guidelines? Just not word for word, just roughly. What does the pack say?
That there have to be at least 4 big blocks which are providing that loss. Which are like on LVO, simply because it is a good number for this kind of blocks. So the shooty faction still can shoot quite efficiently, but also melee faction can hide. This is the biggest things, and how you have to set them on the battlefield to make this line from one deployment to another to simply allow, for example, orcs to finally meet Tau.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Fair enough. Makes sense. Do you guys have anything to say about a central line of sight blocking piece of terrain? What are your thoughts on that?
We were not discussing that beside the moment when we were discussing the whole setup of our terrains,
Sure.
And I think we simply don't have a true opinion of that. Even I don't have a true opinion of that.
Fair.
Because from one point, I enjoy scenarios where this kind of things here, because it is a tactical difference in that, beside of the blocks which are in the different sections, but the center is quite free to shoot. On the other hand, there are disadvantages, because you can run around the center and simply kite your enemy, which is different points. So I'm not sure how to say about that.
Fair enough.
I'm in the middle, yeah. I think if there is there are scenarios which are with that, I'm okay with them. If there are scenarios without that, I'm okay also. So.
Okay, fair enough. So final quick question. I should have asked this right at the start, really. How many spots can you put on the roster?
Can you repeat, please?
The roster. How many commanders can you have access to?
3.
3. Cool. That's fine.
Only 3. Yeah. So you have a roster is consisting of 20 models, which is a standard.
Plus
and
3 commanders. Yeah.
Plus 3 commanders. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is not much, and it is very hard decisions sometimes to make it simply because I really want, for example, to have Fly Marble, but it is a tough decision.
But going back to, so I'm just thinking of the original kind of roster that Commanders gave us.
Yeah.
Is it the case that you can only have one instance of each datasheet commander on the roster?
Yeah, if I understand you correctly. So, for example, if you want to have a Lord Commissar with Chainsword and Lord Commissar with a Power Fist, it's spending 2 slots. Just like every other model.
Oh, okay, that wasn't quite what I meant, but you've answered the question. So, for example, your 3 commander slots can just be 3 Lord Commissars, one's a Pistoler, one's a Strategist, whatever. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, that's why we wanted to make that decision of your roster very impactful, because this is the part of the kill team, yeah? There are many models which you know that are good or very good, but you simply not put them on the board because they are not as important as other models, yeah? And this is also something which we wanted you will be feeling when you are choosing your commanders, or even more, because these are commanders, these are game-changing models, and sometimes they are game-changing in many factions.
Okay, so I think we're done with the pack, right? So I'm now going to ask you about every single faction. So.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
We haven't talked about that. Okay.
No. So for those of you that have stuck with us this long, sorry. Right. There will be a link below, hopefully, assuming Nikolai has published it, that will take you to a website where you can get this pack. I assume it's a download, or it might just be on the site. I don't know.
I think it will be both ways.
Cool. But also there is kind of an opening statement that he's written, which is a little bit derisory, but whatever. That's, okay. But also, you're going to see some graphs. Now, those graphs look very cool, very funky.
No. Graphs will be in the article. And that statement which you are talking about is also from article. And we will talk about that with Nikolai, don't worry.
Is that not going to be on the site then?
It will, but not today. Today,
that's fine.
We have access to the tournament pack.
Just the pack. Okay.
Yes, and then we will provide, because we have data, as you were talking about the
meta. That's what. Let's. Okay, so ignore everything I just said. Basically, there is something coming out which has a graph, and that graphs are fun to look at. But what this graph is essentially saying is that you kind of took a poll of the winning factions at a bunch of recent tournaments. I can't remember how many, both for not commanders, and then you did kind of as many tournaments with commanders, and you looked at win rates, win percentages, etc. for different factions.
Yes.
Just off the top of your head, do you know the sample size?
I don't remember that.
That's fine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, so. Basically, what this shows is that the number of wins evens out when you include commanders. If you look at non-commanders packs, tournaments being played, there are definite winners and losers. Some factions are just clearly the best faction. And I believe that's looking at LVO 2021, was it? Or, well, not LVO
Many.
specifically, but hold one, kill one.
Yes, mainly.
Yeah,
mainly,
hold more,
yeah.
kill more.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's not like you're looking back at original hold 3. You're looking at the current things that are being played. And with commanders added under your pack, basically everything falls within like a really quite a narrow range, apart from
Yes.
one faction, but let's ignore that. So tell us a little bit about that, I suppose. That was a bad question. If you need a better question.
No, I think I will do that. It's
Okay.
I was quite surprised, but on the positive side when I saw this graph, because they were also provided by Nikolai, and
Yes.
they are based on the tournaments which were played in Russia and on Ukraine. So we don't unfortunately have data, for example, from Polish tournaments and Hong Kong tournaments for now, but we will try to store that data, because now we have some data for that, especially for the Commander international tournaments, because this is something that we are simply interested in to monitor how the package is doing, to gather the feedback. But still, it is looking disgustingly in favor of the playing with commanders. Difference is very, very big, because if we were taking a look at the data without commanders, the graph is looking like that, like a wave. Here is, for example, Astra Militarum, here is Tau, here is Genestealer cults, Tyrannids, and other Azuriani, yeah? And when you are taking a look on the commanders meta, it is like that. It's simple flat line, and it is really looking like that, so data is in our favor, definitively. And we are happy with that, because this is why we created this package. I deeply believe that the correct way of playing Kill Team is to playing with commanders, because they are by themselves fixing many issues with the balance.
Okay.
For example, when you saw in the top 10 on the tournament Tyrannids, multi-Tyrannids last time. On the last tournament you Warsaw, they were Tyrannids, multi-Tyrannids in first 10. There are playable again in the meta. You can win tournaments with them, and it's great. And now we can go for each faction, I believe. Yeah.
Well, we're not going to cover every faction. I do have a few questions for me personally, because there are some factions that we've seen kind of rise and fall. For example, in the original format of Hold 3, some factions were clearly dominating. But then once we moved to hold more, kill more, they've fallen off almost completely.
Yes.
And that's also included from the jump to 100 to 125. There was no separation there. We never played 125 hold 3. So, there are other factors there. But now, going to Commander's 200 points, things are opening back up again for them. So I guess the first one I want to ask about, because this isn't 100% true, but I feel that Genestealer cults are a tough faction to play. Very glass cannon, and the way they win is in melee combat, right?
Yes.
Which, of course, if you're a glass cannon but ranged, well, you can be doing damage from turn 1, but Genestealer cults have to make it across the board, and that's really tough. So, how do you win with them as commanders? What are the commanders because they have a huge range of commanders, because that's all they got in elites.
Yes.
What's good there?
With the Genestealer cards is maybe from the different point. There are two things which are mainly changing the meta by playing with commanders. One is obviously that you are allowed to provide that commander model on the field, which is a big changer for some factions on its own. And the second one is, as you said, the changing the bracket of points. There is a group of factions which were underperforming on 125 points because other factions were able simply to provide more cost-effective models in that bracket. for the previous ones, they are also able to provide these cost-effective models, but they would require more points, for example. And this is why, for example, Deathwatch is much better on Commanders than it is without it. Yeah. But back to Genestealer cards. Now you can provide, for example, a very cheap commander. They have a great tactics, and you are able to swarm your enemy by Genestealers. Yes, for example, because they have that 5+ invasive, they are not as easy to kill as you maybe think, and they are disgustingly fast. And you can simply run and buy your time for your cultists with the true killing weapon. So with the chainsaws and
yeah.
and all of that for your mining guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing which is also affecting Tyranids and Death Guard also, but on the other way. But for Genestealer, back into the Genestealer cards, I try to not jump into the different factions. Sorry. You are able now to swarm properly because you have points for that, and you have, for example, you have commanders where you can surround him with your cheap cultists and transfer wounds to them. Because this commander on its own is very weak. Not weak, he is very deadly but very squishy. I don't remember the name, but this is the way how you are going. You have a
Do you mean the Primus? Is that who we're talking about?
I don't remember the name, sorry.
Okay.
But there is the one, he's very squishy, but he can make the job done, yeah?
Sure.
And now you have access to that tactic, to buy your time, because you have enough points to, because Genestealers, for example, are not so cheap. To provide them enough to swarm your, for example, Astra Militarum, it is, as you said, the gamble. Will they shoot enough of you in the first turn? Or they won't, and now it is favoring you because you have so many models, and models who can survive even overcharged plasma, and it is a very tough matchup now. Tyrannies are very, very tough matchups for me, for example, for now.
Okay, so Genestealer cults are back in the game.
Yes,
I don't exactly understand how, but they're there. Who were the other underperformers? So obviously Tyranids took a big hit.
Yes.
You're saying they're now back. I hope with more than just one list of Genestealer spam. But
no. They have a different ways to play now. They have a Death Leaper, for example.
Yep.
Which is a game changer, because for Tyranids the biggest issue were shooty factions, because they were not able to, at least in our meta here, because they were not able to run through flamers and all of that. And Death Leaper is a big pain for this kind of factions, because he can arrive here, then he is disappearing, and arrive here and kill that model. So he is putting a pressure on your team just because he is there.
sure.
And also they are still able to provide that little swarm, not even with Genestealer cards, but cheaper Termagants or something like that. And they still have a points for a big bucks. And because of their tactics, they are able to put a big guy in the middle of your gun line in the first turn, which is, oh my goodness, guys, we are not prepared for that. So it can be a big changer. They are definitively stronger than without the commanders, because they are in this bracket which I was telling about, that in the 125 they are not able to put enough meat in that list to simply swarm properly most of their worst matchup. And now they simply have that because they have more points, and they have also access to Death Reaper Prime and other guys which can do big nyam with your little humies on the other side. Yeah.
So quick pullback. A question I forgot to ask in the pack, I suppose, is how long is each round? Because obviously we're going up in points. So do we need longer per round?
Good question. It changes very little. It was surprisingly not sufficient, really. I thought that the games with commanders would be much longer, but they are simply not.
Okay.
This is not the true. People thought that the main effect of commanders is that like everybody will take the cheapest commander and everything else, and you will in the result have a lot of cheap units on the table. When in reality, because you have beefy commanders, you have more points. People are putting not more models on the table usually, but more strong models.
Sure.
So the number of models is many times not changing. For the Gene Stealers and Tyrannids, obviously yes, it is rising because this is the way how to play them. But for example, I am usually playing with list of 12 guys. On Commanders, I'm playing a list of the 13. This is the difference.
Sure.
Yeah?
But does your pack say this is the time round? You know, hour and a half, hour 45,
Yeah,
hour
hour
10.
and a half is a preferred one, but
Hour
we
and a half.
don't want to put the pressure on the tournament organizer.
Okay.
Because they know the best what they can afford for the people. Simple as that, yeah.
Mm.
LVO has this difference that is dedicated for Las Vegas Open, yeah.
Yeah.
And our tournament is our pack is not dedicated to one event, and
Okay.
that's why it is more flexible. But it is, I think that 1.5 hour is more than enough to play.
But to clarify, you have recently played several games using this pack, several tournaments using this pack, and you were playing hour and a half rounds?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was
So,
more than enough.
Hour and a half with what? 10-minute swap over between rounds, or
10 minutes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And it was more than enough. All my games I was finishing far before the deadline.
Okay. Fair enough.
Really no problem. Really no problem. The difference is maybe something about 10% in length of the game. Maybe.
Okay. Now, quick question, because I've got models here and stuff. So, these are Death Guard. I'm putting together a little Death Guard list. Which commander do I need to make to win with Death Guard?
I hate chaos, but I will answer you. Give me a second.
Sure. Okay.
I don't remember their ugly names.
Oh yeah, neither do I. Don't know them either. I don't know.
I think the Teleman for sure.
Oh really? Okay. I have
Yes.
him. I don't know where, but yeah.
Teleman is a good model, even if people are not thinking like that, because he can be a strategist and he can refund you CPs. Yes.
Sure.
And Death Guard have a really good CPs, but they are sometimes too expensive, and this is the way to solve that. And if you want a killing power, you have your Terminators and Gunners and Fighters. There are your killing power.
Sure.
I think that also a good way is Blight Spawn, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because that flat 3 on the Flamer is
Oh
with
yes.
the 9-inch, it is just disgusting model.
Yeah, it's
if
really
you
good.
work with that correctly. Of course, there is the point that people are many times telling strange things. For example, people are telling that Bullgrin is a bad model.
Well, hold on a sec. I'm going to ask about that in a general sense.
Okay.
Next.
Okay.
We're there actually. Yeah. Okay. So, when it comes to like one of the things that people really liked going from 100 to 125 points was that suddenly some of the more expensive models like Bullgrins, Terminators, I was going to say Mega Knobs, but not Mega Knobs. They're terrible. Let's ignore that though.
Tomato.
Yeah. So it's like they suddenly became viable. There were suddenly scenarios where it was like, actually, yes, I will pay 45 points for a Terminator because it makes sense. Whereas at 100, I don't think that's ever the case.
Afford that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but one of the criticisms that I hear from that is that some people say that you're just letting people play with their toys, right? You know,
which is
that's always what we're doing. That's always what we're doing. But I like to think it does make the game more balanced. But some
Yes.
people take it in the negative sense of, oh, you just wanted to use this and it doesn't actually, blah. What are your thoughts on that going up to 200 points, which is, of course, a much higher point level?
Much higher. As I said, there are on the board, there are usually more hard hitters, more expensive model, because people are reaching this point that they are able to cover the board already, and there is no point to put more models. There is a point to put more killers on that board. And for me, it is very healthy for a game because you have a models for standing on points. Now you have it almost everywhere. There is still a death watch, yeah, where you don't have access to any really cheap model. But for example, Astartes, you require a guy to stand on the point simply because holding is still a big point of game, yeah. And taking that 10 points from a scout for a start is when we are taking in consideration 125, it's still a big chunk of your points. But when you have that 200, it's changed. It is not so big amount of that points, and you have more points to simply play and to fight, because kill teams are to kill, not to. There are not named hold teams, for the God's sakes, not without a reason, yeah. And for me, it is very healthy for meta, because many factions had answers for some things from the other factions with models which are expensive, like a Bulgrin. It is a great example because Astra Militarum is really starving for a good melee fighters. And you have a Bulgrin, but he is so expensive that in some matchups he is simply not valuable at all. But it is the only truly killing melee model which you have in your roster beside of Tempestor. You don't have any other. So it is, and there are many of these kind of models which are expensive, and they are the only solution for that particular problem for that faction. So it is leading for balance. For Gene Stealer cards, again, you have Aberrants in 125. Nobody is using them. On the Commanders, they are appearing again because they are solution for Bulgrins. Again, yeah. And it is simply, I think it is healthier for the balance. And from my experience, I'm not like I believe in that, I simply saw on my eyes that it is healthier.
Okay. And I think the big thing for me, so I think that is, a valid concern that people can have to say, well, aren't we just increasing the points costs because then we get to use fun models at the cost of competitive balance or just balance, right? But obviously, hopefully they will go and look at and read that article when they see it of just how much more balanced commanders are than regular.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we were talking before the interview, if we are providing people a data, a math thing, and they will try to deny the data, then I don't know what we can do simply. Because if you are trying to discuss with math, then there is no help for you. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well, that's kind of all I've got. Do you have any other things you want to talk about, or anything you felt you wanted to say?
I want to thank you for that interview. I hope it will simply help with the promotion of the package. And I want to also thank everybody, because we had many people who provided us testing games, ideas from Vanaheim, for Figurkowe Gry Bitewne, for Matisoft Gaming, and also there is one club from Ukraine, and Nikolai will kill me because I don't remember its name. Yeah. But we want to thanks everybody, and I hope that you will have simply fun with that, because the main point of all that game is to have fun with that. Even if people are some people taking it so seriously that they starting to throwing their models at them. Yeah, I saw that on my eyes also.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I think we've covered everything we really want to say about Commanders. It's a more balanced game, is what the data shows, and obviously you have, like, it's not like you played 2 tournaments. There have been lots of tournaments using this pack, right? This isn't
Yes,
like
the previous
once.
iteration maybe. Oh, it
Oh,
was
okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Sure.
For this pack, there we have for now 3 tournaments. There
Okay.
would be another ones, but lockdown. Yeah.
Lockdown. Yeah. Yeah.
But people are playing that even now
Sure.
in Warsaw on the league, and if they have a choice to play that or at 125, they are playing usually that because it's
Yeah.
simply funnier.
Oh
And it
yes,
is,
of
I
course.
think, that
So
missing thing to the kill team. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know how to deal with your Psybolts. I don't have tools. Now you have.
Sure.
Deal
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
Okay, great. So that's kind of our Commanders chat done. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose if you have a moment, we might talk about a few more general kill team related things.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard that, we're getting some new release in the beginning of January.
Nexus, yeah.
What do you think it's going to be? What are your theories?
I don't have any
No?
real idea. Yeah.
What do you want it to be?
Uh, I'm really divided within myself.
Okay.
I'm really afraid that they will screw, in my opinion, the base GW game, the well balanced, because I really think that the Kill Team is the best balanced game from the GW, and it is the less dice dependent, simply because you have mechanics to manage that RNG thing. And I am afraid because of that. On the other side, I know that it is really required thing, yeah, that to make anything moving in the meta, because kill team community and kill team scene is kind of stagnated for now.
Sure.
Because there were no new releases. Our package is, of course, solving that, because
Of course, yeah.
we have a lot of new data sheets for commanders, another bracket for points, and it is changing everything. But still, we cannot solve the problem of the game by our own, because it is GW game in the end, yeah. And I'm really excited that they are doing anything, and they will provide for sure some new data sheet for new Flayed one. I'm pretty sure that there will be new Flayed ones, maybe Blade Guard veterans, some units from Indomitus will be included.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of afraid if they want to redesign point values and the wound values for everything at once. Because, for example, veterans for Astartes are already very strong. If you think that Astartes are not strong, I think you're wrong, sorry. But what if they will simply go on the easy way and buff Marines and Necrons and don't rise the point values? I know this sounds like a nonsense, but we don't know GW from yesterday, yeah? And I am afraid of these kind of things, that they will release that, very freely, without thinking about the consequences. Sure. But to be honest, to simply sum up, I'm optimistic about that. I think it will be very good release, and if it will impact community, I think it will impact in the only good way. There will be, of course, lingerers, as always, because it is a hobby for many people. Yeah. But I think it will be good for Kill Team,
Okay. And what if it is what some people think? I don't think it's going to be this. But what if it is, they're just rebooting Kill Team? It's Kill Team 2.
I don't know what to say. Maybe, and I don't think it will be bad for the game. It depends. If the result of rebooting will be bad, then okay, this is a bad decision. But if it will be better, nothing against that. We will simply adapt our our format to the newer version.
Okay,
and this is everything.
So
I'm not opposed to that.
Okay, and I guess final question: Commanders. I'm a hardcore competitive player. What is the best faction in your pack?
Data is saying that there is no best faction.
Okay, fair enough. But
this is the
who is
data.
it?
This is the map.
Who is
yeah?
it? You've got to
Okay.
pick one. Yeah.
I got to. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a
yeah.
choice.
No.
I want to say Astra Militarum because I love my Imperial Guard, but
Okay.
I think it is not the truth.
Yeah.
I would still say that the best one. I'm struggling between Space Marines and Azuriani.
Okay.
And I don't know, to be honest. Maybe Azuriani, but on the other hand, Space Marines on that bracket have so many toys and they are
Yes.
so deadly that I don't know, something between these two.
Okay. And I guess question about Drukari. What's a strong list for them? Like, because in 125, well, 100, 125, I think the default list is Rack and Mandrakes.
Rack spam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rack and Mandrakes.
Has that lasted into 200, or suddenly witches are amazing? They're not. Or anything?
Rax doesn't lose that.
Okay.
They are still very good because their commanders is buffing them to T5.
Yes. Yeah.
By aura, so they are even tougher to kill. But still, this is the kind of team, and it haven't changed, that is unable to provide kills on its own.
Yeah.
But witch spam, on the other hand, on 125, I think is lacking against some matchups very deeply. For example, against Thousand Suns, because Thousand Suns with their Psybolts are taking witches simply too easy out.
Yep.
But now on commanders, witches are also completely playable. And I was testing that with one of my friends. It is really disgustingly hard to kill enough of them in the first round.
Okay.
And then they are at you. The bunch of very crazy ladies are at your models, and you don't know what to do with that. And they have a potential to kill simply everything.
Okay.
And there are again like a Tyranids and Gene Stealer cults that on that variant that okay, now we can swarm you properly. We should be able to do that on 125, but we were not. But now we are. So deal with our commander and deal with our angry ladies, and it is not easy to be done. Believe me.
Okay. All right.
So you can play additional way in Drukari efficiently, in my opinion.
Sure. Okay. I think. How are Necrons doing? Because I think Necrons are kind of the runaway star at 125, hold more, kill more. How are they in 200? I mean, again, I've seen the data, but...
Very good. On the first tournament in Warsaw, on that package, the third placing, I was the second placing. The third placing was a girl with Necrons. And she beat Tau. She beat Tyranids. I don't remember, but she had matchups with the four different factions and three different factions, and it was very good. Necrons are very good on 200s because they have access to Overlord simply, which is it was funny because I was playing next to her and I was only hearing how much strength, how much AP, flat 3 damage, and I was also playing and testing against the Necrons, and I was once playing with my friend, and we met the situation when I had a lot of objectives to be done, but he simply ran next to my deployment, and I had a steadfast and many models there with his Overlord, and it was moment that nothing was taking into consideration, just all the guns were pointed into that guy to simply done with him, because if he would charge in the next phase, it would be simply the end of the story. So and beside that, they are still able to put their very deadly models. I seen a very sexy list for Necrons with shooty list for Necrons, which is very efficient. You are taking your Overlord, like a guy that your enemy know that we need to kill him, because if he will be on us, we're simply dead, beside of Astartes maybe, and all the other models are immortals for for shooting.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
it is working disgustingly well.
Right.
And without Overlord, it is simply unable to be done, because you don't have that one unit, which, okay, all of our units are shooty, but this one is so big game changer
Right.
that your opponent don't want to shoot back to you. For example, I with my Astra
Yeah.
Militarum, because he know that he have to shoot this guy first, or he's dead simply.
Okay. Awesome.
So they are doing very good, very good.
No, I knew they were. I was just hoping you were going to say they're not as strong as they are now. But okay.
No,
Fair
they
enough.
they are as strong as they are in the
Yeah,
new
sure.
meta. And it is
Fair
correct. I didn't want it, for example, to Astra Militarum to be weaker, which it is a little bit weaker, but I'm okay
Right.
with that. But still, it is justified. I didn't want the Necron to go lower. We're okay, and they were very strong, and they are very strong, but nothing broken.
Sure.
At all.
Okay. Well, I think that's our interview done.
Okay.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think I already said my final thoughts. So,
Okay.
maybe only thing I hope that the release of the Nexus will really be very good, and GW will take care of the kill team how they should take care. It is my only final thoughts. But if they not, we are okay without them, to be honest.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I do think that, you know, exactly as I said earlier, with me and Beerenid, we were saying exactly we need a Commanders pack. And then Sheldon, Kill Team Stream, put out his LVO 2021 Commanders pack. And obviously, I believe you guys have a little bit more testing under your belt for it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm excited to play, hopefully. Fucking COVID.
Situation is
Yeah, so London, England is going back into lockdown on Thursday. So I don't know what I'm
For
doing.
the whole lockdown, so you
Full
won't be
lockdown.
able to. Oh,
Full lockdown. Yeah.
okay.
So I don't know what's happening exactly, but I had hoped to do a commander's pack, like battle report using your pack as like the next thing I do. I don't know if that's possible now. Let's see. But I'm definitely going to do that at some point, and I'm really excited to talk about it. And kind of at the end of that bat rep, I'm also going to give my opinions on the pack and stuff, you know, based on the one game I've played, which will be against myself. But yeah, so
But still, I'm happy that you want to do that. Yeah.
definitely. So anyway, yeah, thank you very much. I'm excited to play it. I'm excited to not be in lockdown, that I can play games again.
Any game.
Yeah, any game. Any game. I'll play some chess. I'm ready for that. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for talking about it. Thanks for giving an insight into the different factions and the pack itself, obviously. And hopefully we can have you back on once the Nexus releases and it completely destroys the pack and you have to remake it. Yeah.
I hope it won't,
Or once lockdown has ended and you have a tournament coming up, that would be better. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so also.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Do you want to say your goodbyes?
Goodbyes. I'm not so creative in this kind of way.
That
Sorry,
worked
not
for
this
me,
kind of
yeah.
way.
Thank you very much for watching, everybody. This has been Glass Half Dead and Matt, I'm going to call him. I hope you've had a good day. I hope you continue to have a good day. Goodbye.